Hello, welcome back to the Reflect Now podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Duncan. I'm so glad that you have joined us. If you don't know what this space is, this is a moment where we get to actually dive deep into people's stories, be inspired by what God is doing. We really believe here at City, we've spoken about it for 2021, God is doing something where we are reflecting heaven on earth. And what does that actually look like? Looking at people's lives, seeing their experiences, tells us a lot about it. And so I'm joined by a very special guest. Joining me is Dikelo.
Hello.
I'm so glad that you are here. If no one knows who Dikelo is, give us the quick snapshot.
Wow, if I've never met you, I'm so sorry. So my name is Dikelo Mamiala. I am 35 years old. So I am a software developer, a business analyst. I'm an associate producer for a production company. I'm a singer. I'm an actress. I'm a lover of Jesus, a lover of people. Yeah, I guess who I am will depend on the time of day you meet me.
So something we do on the podcast to kind of kick us off, get us comfortable, because we're having a conversation, is just to do a little exercise. So we call it this or that.
Okay.
This or that. Basically, I'll give you two options. It will give us a window into who you are, what you enjoy. So, okay, first one is this. Pop or indie?
Oh, man. I must say indie for now.
I feel like that's in your heart of hearts. Knowing you, I'm like, you can't be the...
Yeah.
I know you love pop, that's fine,
moments.
but the indie is there.
You jam to things, but then,
Text or call?
Text. Do not call me. Yo, I panic. Why?
I feel
you
like
can say everything in a text. Why must we be like,
It's 2021.
No. Say what you need to say in a text.
Okay, but then are we talking like WhatsApp, or are we talking like what's your general text etiquette?
Whatever. Get the message
Where
across.
do voice notes fall in the equation?
Oh, I'm a firm believer in 20-minute voice notes.
Oh, see,
say what you need to say with no or ah, because then if you're in a call, someone interrupts you and then you don't get your point across, and then it's just like, say everything and let me respond to everything.
There we go. Okay. Let's go. Beach holiday, bush holiday.
Beach. I'm not trying to be chowed by mosquito as relaxing. No.
Okay, not your vibe. Would you say if you had to choose between book or a movie?
Movie. No. Guys, I used to love reading. And then you read this book and then 5 pages talking about that flower that is orange and it's blooming and how the wind is taking it and how it no, just go back to the story.
Show me the picture.
In a movie, that is a whole 2 seconds. In a book, that's a whole 5 days of reading. I'm not trying to do that.
I agree with you. I'm totally on board for that. So you might have noticed Dikelo's quite the creative. So she does enjoy, and hey, you are the one who does like to be on camera is on camera, does some very cool things. We'll get into a bit of that. But first thing I want to start and kind of set the scene. I mean, it's a conversation we've kind of had even getting ready for this. Something that's super important in your experience and your walk is this idea of passion and dreams and things God has placed in your heart. You spoke about being a software analyst and at the same time a performer, and we talk about the slash generation. We've spoken about that before, where you're just this CEO slash toilet cleaner slash this. And I feel like that's a big thing that actually describes who you are, because you do anything and everything, and sometimes they don't necessarily go together. Software analysts, business analyst, and then on the other side, a singer, actress, producer, writer, whatever that. They're very cool. But the question I have is, in the realm of passion, sometimes we know, and creatives especially will know this, it's sometimes difficult to get paid for your passion.
Oh, yeah.
And so how do you have these passions that, or talents or gifts that God's given you, and you're trying to pursue them, but at the same time, how do you pursue your passions realistically?
I think there's a difference between passion and, that might be nice to do. Do you know? So for me, the things that I'm passionate about are the things that, I have moments where like, if I'm not doing them, there's a part of me that's dying slowly and I don't know how to reconcile it until I do something about it. I've taken about 2 sabbaticals in my working career, as from being a software developer, data analyst, business analyst, all of this. And usually whenever I've gotten to the point of taking a sabbatical, it's when I'm like, I'm clocking in, 8 to 5 every single day, but there's just something in me that's missing. I'm doing my job well enough, but I'm starting to resent my job because I'm not being fulfilled in a certain way. And then whenever I've taken my sabbatical, I then thrive and thrust myself into the creative space. And so for me, I've realized that it's not only a passion, but it's something that like, it's almost like another breath of fresh air in my life. So for me, realistically, I've had to kind of find a way to I don't know, it's more than a hobby for me. But the things that I'm passionate about, like creating content, being an actress, you know, because I'm an associate producer for a production company, and I was lucky enough to be able to be a producer. I've never studied this, but I'm learning on the job and we're creating stuff. But that all cost money. And how do I realistically do that and sustain something that I'm passionate about while there is no actual income from it because you're an independent producer? So I've had to kind of somehow leverage off the thing that I studied. I've studied software development, and it served me. Even though there's a moment where I've given up on it, it served me. So I've had to kind of just be like, because sometimes creatives can be airy-fairy. I'm just going to do this, and I'm just going to, no, this makes me happy. Great, it makes you happy. But how do you make it actually work? Do you know? So for me, I've been lucky enough to be able to pursue my IT side, which has served me because it's intellectually and mentally stimulating, but then do the creative side that actually is me. It's like, I feel like it's the biggest part of me that reflects who God is for me.
And do you think it's like, they're not necessarily like at war with each other or like, like you're saying, there's a side where they're very different and they're serving their purpose. Correct. And giving you that space.
And I think for me, I had to get to that space where, because, you know, you grow up, I don't know what kind of, you know, environment everybody's grown up in, but I grew up in that background of get a proper job. You finish university, you get a proper job, and you do your work. I remember taking my first sabbatical and telling my parents that I'm taking a sabbatical. And my dad legit said, but this is a family decision. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't understand how this is a family decision, you know? So, and I understand the context that they've grown up in is have a secure job, have a secure life. But I had to get out of that mindset that it's either or, you know? Yeah. I actually, like, I remember there was a time where, like, when I was wrestling with God about the things that I'm passionate about and that I want to do, but I can't do them. I don't have the money. And like that whole concept of dreaming big, like God really just convicted me. Like, well, what does it look like to dream big in this context? I want to be mentally and intellectually stimulated, which is what my IT side brings me. I want to be a performer. I love performing, like being on the stage, and like, it's just something that brings life to me. I want to do that. I want to be able to travel, because also I love traveling. Traveling is something that, is also food for the soul for me. And I love meeting new people. So for me, God was just like, dream it all. Doesn't matter how it's going to work out. It's not for you to figure it out. It's for you to bring it to me. And to this day, it doesn't make sense half the stuff I've been able to do, but I'm so grateful for that revelation.
And I think you touch on such an important thing, this idea of like sometimes people, the world, whoever might be, parents, authority, friends, people around us. And I think you probably fall in that category of like people try to put you in a box, and that's not necessarily helpful. And so you're running in multiple lanes.
Yeah.
And so where do you think that is helpful? And where do you think it can be hurtful when people start to be like, no, whoa, you're just a one lane girl. Stay in your lane, just do software, that's it.
Yeah. So I think so the reason I've ended up being like a multiple lane girl, as you say, there's a slight FOMO in me. I'm not going to lie. Like the idea that something great could happen and I could have been a part of that, but I wasn't. And so I end up being like a yes woman, like, oh, I'll try that. Like, I'll always disclose I have no experience, but I'll try. And if it works out, it works out. And what ends up happening with that is that, and maybe because of my go get it, like I'll do it, people always end up saying, oh, you'll be great at this and you'll be great. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, I'll try. So on the one hand, you never know what opportunities you can fall into, whose life you could impact, how you can impact your own life, how you can serve God by just trying things and doing things, you know. You try, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if it does work out, even better. So I suppose in that way, it can be helpful because then you're not putting yourself in your own box, like I am just this, right? But it can be hurtful because, you know, as I said, I have become a bit of a yes woman. And I do have moments where I do get overwhelmed. And then you kind of, you equate productivity with busyness. And then when you're supposed to be having downtime, like I remember there was a day where I was so busy in the middle of the night going to the bathroom, like 3:00 in the morning. In my mind, I'm trying to, okay, what is going to happen tomorrow that is probably going to make me anxious? And I was legit in the dark trying to get anxious about something because I must be busy with something and I must be thinking about something. If I'm not busy, then what am I doing? You know? And that's not productive. You know, that's just burnout. And so, so I suppose in that way, it's not helpful because it is, you're not really helping anyone. You're just stressing yourself out.
Yeah, there's this hurtful angle to it. There's the negative side to it. There's the I've often used it. It's the shadow space of the thing that's giving light and doing whatever.
Yeah.
Another side that may sometimes also be negative when you're pursuing passions, pursuing dreams, and I'm sure there's a lot of people going, there's this dream God's put in my heart. There will be that moment where obstacles get in the way, where opposition comes against it. Often we don't see the full picture in front of us. And I know you've spoken even to me about moments you've had like that, even in the not so distant past, around, hey, this doesn't look like how God had originally said. I don't know how this is going to happen. So maybe talk to us about that when you're in that space where you're not necessarily hearing God, seeing God, knowing how it plays out.
You know what? This for me, I think hit home during the initial lockdown phase. Because the second sabbatical I took, I quit my job as a system analyst and I went to go work on a cruise ship, cruise liner, German cruise liner. Loved it, like a most amazing experience. I got to sing for a living, so it was great, and then when I came back into the country, the idea was to go back, but then I didn't. And then I joined this production company as an associate producer, and we started making content. It was amazing. We produced a show called Working Wife, which is now on Showmax.
Super plug.
Super plug. And that was amazing. Great experience, And then, but also this whole thing was on a no budget, shoestring budget situation, right? I don't have a full-time job. I'm not going back to the ship, so I don't have an income coming in. So I'm like running at a loss. Then lockdown happens. I'm not working. I'm not going back to the ship. We're not shooting because we can't shoot. So now I am living with my parents at 34 years old. I am dead broke. The bank is calling me about my bond. I have no more medical aid because I can't afford it. I have no car because at some point my car broke down during production. So I literally was bedbound because the only good thing I could do was sleep and wake up, right? And I just found myself in this space of like, did I make the right decision? Was I supposed to be an actress? Was I supposed to be a singer? Should I have taken leave? Should I go to my old boss and beg him for a job back? Because, and also like, my poor parents' shame. Like, I understand this, the nature in which they were raised, and you must have a job. And every day they're like, you shouldn't have done this. You should go back to, your boss to take you back. And and so I have this like, God, come on, like I prayed about it. You gave me peace. You gave me verses, and I was in this space where I just craved for somebody to give me a word from God. I just craved for somebody to pray for me. Like I'd walk in a room and someone would be like, this is what God is saying. Nothing. And then I just got to a space where I realized God was giving me the opportunity to legit live what it looks like to say, when I say I live by faith, what does that look like? When you don't have money in the bank that's like cushioning you, what does that look like to live by faith? When you don't have a job that's cushioning you, when you don't have a cushion at all, what does living by faith actually look like? And then finding joy in that, finding joy in the nothing. Like, it's been said, everybody was like, I just need a week of rest and I just, I'll be fine to reset. I resetted and came back and I was tired from resting and went back to rest, So for me, I think in that season, I really had to like learn what it looked like to live by faith, what it looked like to be generous when you have nothing. What it looked like to not serve, to serve God without having like you saw that, God, I did it, hey? So where's my, like even if you did not hear from God in that time, does it change where you stand with him? And I was so grateful for that period. I'm not going to lie. Like, eventually like God, likely, praise Jesus, by like September, I started working again. And then like, it felt great, but I will never forget that there was a time where I legit had and that moment, that's when I realized there's different levels to broke. When someone says to you they're broke, it's like, I'm broke, I can't go to Italy, or I'm broke, I can't go to Cape Town, or I'm broke, I can't come to Pretoria to visit you, or I'm broke, I can't go to Gemelli's for dinner, or I'm broke, I can't go to KFC for Streetwise 2, or I'm broke, I can't even get into a taxi or a car to come to KFC. Do you know what I mean? There's different levels to it. I was in the minute level. Actually, not even, because I still had a house over my head. I still have food in the fridge because I was living with my parents. So I didn't even know other people's level of brokes, but it humbled me that moment, And
I think, when you're in that space where there's so much opposition and you're like wrestling with God and And you're sitting on the other side now, a year down the line going, oh God, I get what you were doing.
Yeah.
I see how it's all played out. Getting to do all these different things, run in these different lanes. For the person who's sitting in that space, whatever that obstacle might look like, I think it's a question, and I remember just teeing you up for it. But when you have that dream that God's put in your heart, and you're so sure about it, and you're so passionate about it, God's done this, He's put it there, when should the dream die? Because you sit in that space going, maybe I heard wrong, maybe this, maybe God's not, maybe this isn't it.
I don't necessarily think dreams die. They take different shapes in your life and in different season. In one season, another dream might pop up, and that dream might sort of like lay dormant a little. And then in another season, you might realize this is why it needed to lay dormant, and now it's coming up. Or you're just a different person, and the dream takes. I don't think it's and also maybe dying is not necessarily, because dying sounds negative. Dying sounds like, oh well, it's never going to happen. But you evolve as a person, and that no longer is a priority. So it's not that it's dying. It's just like, I don't know what the word for it, but it's not as negative as it sounds. Because I know for me, like I've been wanting to do, and also the funny thing is that I don't think sometimes we realize when our dreams come true. Do you know? Because I'm just thinking, like I was about to say, like I've been wanting to be a performer my whole life. I've been wanting to do this my whole life. And I remember when I ended up doing IT, I was like, well, I'm never going to do this, but I've been doing it. You know? I remember thinking, all I want to do is just star in like a feature film or a feature show in like on Netflix or like some big streamer. I'm a lead in a show on Showmax, do you know? How it's come about is not necessarily how I visualize it, but it's come about, do you know? But answering your question, when should dreams die? Like, I think also maybe searching the motives of our heart for that dream. I've had to do that. Like, I've had to well, why do I want to be a performer? Why do I want to tell stories? Why do I want to, is it for my own little, did you see what I did? But for me, it's come like, it's my second breath. And that's why I feel like I need to do it. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, 100%. I think sometimes it's that idea that some will be put on us. Sometimes God needs to put some pieces in place before.
And funny thing, so I mean, late last year, so when I was sort of praying about this year and what this year is going to look like, the word that God gave me was acceleration. And He said to me, every single dream that you've had that's laid dormant is going to come true. And I will accelerate. And it's going to be as if you never waited. You haven't been waiting so long for it.
Such a good word.
And it's yours. So I was kind of like very excited for it. And then today, actually, Jen sent me a word on WhatsApp. And I realized that in the last month, I've had so many encouraging words and prophecies over my life. The stuff that I craved back then, but I probably was like during lockdown period, I probably wasn't ready for it because I was like so sad. And like, I wasn't ready to receive it. And now I'm like, okay, God, I see what you're doing, you know? Okay. So for me, in this season of my life, I feel acceleration. As to which dream is going to come up first, I don't know. But as I said, I'm realizing now that my dreams have actually come true. Maybe not in the way that I visualized, but they have come true.
And I think that's so inspiring for anyone. I mean, hearing you talk is just going to be inspiring. And I really do love that idea of like, God will speak to us, and He does continue to speak to us, even in the moments where we're not necessarily ready to listen to Him or hear Him in the way that He actually needs to be heard. And yet the thing is like, cool, He's going to be patient with us. If you look at you a year ago compared to now, you just see the, hindsight's 2020. And so you can just start to knock those things off. I think it's been such a cool conversation. Understanding dreams, passion, things that God puts on our heart and how He works it, He'll do in His way. And I think anyone who's sitting in that space is going to be so encouraged and inspired by that. So thank you so much for sharing just a bit of your story.
Pleasure.
We would love for you to actually share this with someone in your world. Obviously, this is something that hits us all in different ways. Everyone is going to have a passion. Everyone has a dream. Everyone has a purpose that God's placed in them. And so this is a conversation that's super important. So we'd encourage you to share this far and wide. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.